let's take a look at the survey. So when you first get into the survey, you're greeted with this part of the screen right here. Now, this is for all the family information. So if you remember, when you first start the presentation, it's going to ask you for their name and birth date and so on and so forth. That's something you could literally make that up in the beginning, but whatever you type in the beginning is going to reflect right here for the primary. So if you did not use the correct birth date, make sure you correct it here. This is very important. Make sure you correct it here. Now, in the very top section where it's asking for a first name, last name, gender, date of birth, email address, so on and so forth, that specific section is for AIL Plus. So what that is going to allow them to do is enroll in AIL Plus if they choose to. Now, you have to fill that section out. You can't skip it or leave it blank. It has to be filled out. If for whatever reason they don't have an email address, you're going to type in no email at ailife.com. Again, it's no email at ailife.com. As far as the actual needs analysis for the family and everything, now if you had to correct the birth date for the primary up top with AIL Plus, you need to correct the birth date for the primary below it into the needs analysis survey. The spouse, pretty self-explanatory, whoever the spouse is. And then any children under the age of 18. Again, any children under the age of 18. If they have any children that are over the age of 18, you can't include them as a child, and you also cannot include them as a spouse. You're going to deal with them separately, and we'll go over that later. Your managers can show you how to do that. Let's say they have more than 3 kids. There's a little button where you can click Add Children. It's pretty simple. You click on it. It's going to let you type in a bunch of information for all the different kids. So make sure the most important part of this is just making sure the birth dates are accurate and genders are accurate. It's an easy mistake to make, but make sure that you're double checking that before you move on. All right, now let's take a look at the second half of the survey. So the first part here you're going to see is basic family medical questions. Now these apply to everyone that's on the survey, children included. All right, so any internal cancer inside of the past 2 years, any insulin, diabetes, any cardiovascular issues such as a heart attack or a stroke or anything like that. Are they using oxygen? That means, are they using an oxygen mask? Now, if they use an oxygen mask while they sleep, that's a yes, they're using oxygen. Any history of terminal illness, Alzheimer's, any kind of tobacco use in the last 12 months. All right. And then the other ones that aren't on here that you want to ask are any history of drug use or marijuana use, any history of anxiety or depression. All right. Finally, you have family non-medical questions, which are, currently on probation or parole. Have they ever been arrested for a DUI or anything in the past? And then finally, you get to household information. Now, before we get to household information, I'm going to take a quick step back and let you know that all of the questions above that we've just gone over, with the exception of tobacco, those are all pretty much auto declines, means that they're automatically going to be removed from the application. We can't insure them. So if they answer yes to any of these questions, there are certain circumstances where where it might not necessarily apply as directly as it is in the text. So if they answer yes to any of these questions, make sure you call your managers and just double check with them. All right. When it comes to household information, so keep in mind the survey, remember, it uses 5% of their annual income, all right, to figure out a plan for that particular person. So when it comes to their actual income, we're looking for their net. I don't want to know what they take home before taxes. I want to know what they take home after all their taxes and deductions, because that's their real income. So it's going to ask you, what's your take-home pay? Now, you can ask for a monthly number, or you can just ask for a weekly or a bi-weekly number, and you can click the little calculator next to it, and it'll calculate this for you. If you click into that box where it says, their income, and you don't type anything, it won't let you click out until you at least type in 1,000. So if you do that by mistake, just type in 1,000, and then you can correct it afterwards. Now, when it comes to insurance through work, very simple. When it comes to insurance through work, this is counted as term insurance, and I'll go through in a separate video how to exactly explain insurance through work. But when it comes to insurance through work, this is going to be counted as term insurance, and you'll need that for later. Total up whatever they have for each person. And then insurance outside of work. Their whole life needs to be in a separate section as their term insurance. Again, you'll see why later. Whether they rent or own, this is important. If someone doesn't have a mortgage, there's really no reason for us to go over mortgage protection, is there? So make sure you ask the question. And then finally, if they do have a mortgage, it's very uncommon, but you do want to ask, do you have anything that would pay off the mortgage in the event of your death? This is very, very important, because if they do have something like that already, the survey will take that into account. If they don't, then obviously it's not going to take anything into account, and it's going to recommend something for them. But it's very important. You want to make sure that you're doing that. And then finally, anything saved up for your children's education. Do you use checking your savings? You should know this by now, but either one, it doesn't really matter. And then when it comes to inflation or non-inflation options, you're always going to select inflation. So that's your walkthrough on the survey, and we'll go through some of the details a little bit later. Make sure you're practicing this. The last thing that I want to leave you with in this video is the most important part of the survey is confidence and competence. Remember that. Confidence and competence. You have to be confident about what you're doing. You also need to know what you're doing. So make sure you're practicing this with your managers and ask them for help whenever you need it. See you there.